and welcome back to Crit and Crit. I'm Scint.
I'm Axion, and restarting this just reminds me how much I love the music from Final Fantasy V, and I've kind of not really thought about that in a while.
I mean, like, it's Final Fantasy. It's kind of like saying chocolate is delicious. Like, no one is really going to say that Final Fantasy music is bad. Different types of chocolate might be more popular than others, but it's still chocolate.
Yeah, but I mean, how many people, if you ask them, hey, what is your favorite Final Fantasy track of all time, with the possible exception of Gilgamesh's theme, Battle on the Big Bridge, how many people are going to pull a 5 track out of their hat at that request, first off?
I don't know, but like when you say Gilgamesh's theme, my first thought is they might be giants, the Mesopotamians.
Oh, it has been forever since I've listened to that, or anything from They Might Be Giants, except for hearing Particle Man a couple of times this past year. Anyway.
Hey, don't knock it. Like, Final Fantasy V does not have my favorite music. I think my all-time favorite Final Fantasy track is Roses of May from 9.
That's definitely up there, along with You're Not Alone. And then, of course, for my personal favorite are things like Searching for Friends or Dancing Mad from 6.
Realm's theme I like too. Though, word of caution, do not, if you have like an MP3 player that can play through your car, never play the airship music when you're driving on the highway.
From any of the games.
It's a really, really good way to zone out and forget that speed limits exist.
Yeah. So, on a completely different subject, we were reading Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, or for our non-American friends, the Philosopher's Stone.
Yeah, because apparently, Sorcerer's Stone might be something that Americans can handle, but the Philosopher's Stone, which is kind of referenced in a lot of different fantasy and mythological things, is apparently too obscure for us, and kids wouldn't be interested in philosophy, even though, you look at the cover of the book and it's got magic on it and stuff. Like, I think we would have been fine with Philosopher's Stone, but oh well. If you want me to argue about localization, we could also discuss anime. Actually, let's not. It's been a long time since I've actually watched anime that wasn't really depressing. I stand by watching Violet Evergarden, though. So, anyway, as has become our tradition, let's talk about the plot of the first Harry Potter book. Do you want me to start? You want to start, Axion?
You go for it.
Alright, so we start off with no magic whatsoever, because the book starts with Mr. Dursley going about his day, his very, very normal day, because he is a very, very normal person. Nothing is weird about him, thank you very much. He and his wife are perfectly normal with their spoiled brat of a child, Dudley, which, can we talk about naming your child certain things? Because, like, if Dudley was not established to become a bully very early on in the series, I kind of think he would have been targeted. Like,
Yeah. It's kind of, you kind of get the impression that, especially the way he's described, he's a big kid, he's fat, he's kind of dumpy looking. You kind of get the impression that, to some degree, he became a bully because, well, what else is he gonna do?
I mean, I kind of got the impression he became a bully because his parents have literally never told him no in his entire life.
I mean, that definitely helped, but it's kind of like, at the same time, you kind of get the impression he had a choice when he was very young of he was going to be the bully or he was going to be bullied.
Yeah, but we can talk about that more later on in the series, because, like, that honestly will become something that becomes more prevalent in the stories as the series goes on. But, so Mr. Vernon Dursley's day is quite normal. I mean, sure, there's some weird rumors happening and owls flying around in the daytime and other things, but it's a perfectly
around in weird cloaks.
Oh, I mean, like, that's why this had to be set in England, because, like, if this was in New York, like, half the fantasy series out there, no one would care, because it's New York.
Yeah.
So, it's after a perfectly normal day, he goes home and happens to mention his wife's sister to her, who is noted they usually pretend doesn't exist. And nothing really comes up until, that night, when Dumbledore and McGonagall, two professors who we will later find out are from Hogwarts show up on Privet Drive with a baby. Well, they show up and then the baby comes in on a flying motorcycle because, make an entrance, come on. And they leave the baby on the Dursley's doorstep because he is the son of Mrs. Petunia Dursley's very recently deceased sister. Because we learn that Harry's parents were recently killed by you-know-who. AKA Voldemort, because no one actually wants to say his name.
Yep. And I do believe at one point Dumbledore says it and McGonagall is aghast.
Which is a recurring thing throughout the series. Dumbledore always says it until he decides to use different names, but he never ever uses you-know-who. Like, Dumbledore honestly takes the opinion of, like, if you refuse to name something, you're giving it more power. Which, is kind of a thing. Like, if you don't talk about something, it does tend to get swept under the rug to fester. So, anyway, Harry somehow miraculously survived the attack and has no family except for the Dursleys, so he is left there to be raised with a note saying, hey, please raise this kid. And that's where we leave Harry for the next decade.
Yep, and then time skip.
Yep, and we come back and Harry has not been well received by his adoptive family. He doesn't have a bedroom. He has a closet. Well, covered in the actual text, but UK to US English, it's a closet. Dudley, meanwhile, has 2 rooms because he doesn't have enough space for all of his stuff in his one room.
Yep.
So, yeah. Yeah, Harry is basically just there. He is seen as a problem child. He is seen as a drain, even though, he's never really been an active problem. He's just not their son.
Yep. He's an orphan that they're related to, that they have been saddled with, because they don't say what happened, but the way his parents are described, they seem to imply to Harry that his parents were involved in something unsavory and deserved what happened to them, and Harry is now a burden that his aunt and uncle have to deal with.
I believe the exact story they give him. Yeah, I believe the exact story they give him is your father was useless and they died in a car accident, and now you're our problem.
Yes.
Also, you're getting old enough to go into secondary school, and we're gonna send you to this school for troubled children because whatever, it's easier than dealing with this. Meanwhile, our precious son is going to this school instead, and that's when Harry starts receiving letters, which he never has before because, well, Harry doesn't have friends.
That's not what I
Harry has never had friends because, well, having friends would mean extra targets for Dudley and his friends to bully. Speaking of being bullied.
Boss time!
Wing Raptor. As though, like, raptor doesn't already refer to birds of prey. But that's when his aunt and uncle start to really freak out because they know what the letters mean, even though Harry has been kept in the dark his entire life, and go to extreme measures to stop him from getting these letters, which in turn, because they're sent by magic, take extreme measures to get to him, culminating on them not only moving him to a different room so the letters change their address, to taking him to a small shack in the middle of, like, the ocean or a lake or something, where, rather than just have the mail get there, Hagrid shows up to deliver it in person to make sure he actually gets his mail, and also gives Harry his very first birthday cake ever. So, Hagrid tells Harry basically everything that the Dursleys didn't. He is a wizard, so were his parents, and it's time for you to go to school to learn to be a wizard. And Harry is just like, I'm down with this, get me out of here. So Hagrid takes Harry to go shopping for school. he gets to his first introduction to the wizarding world and all the magic in it and how impressive it is, and he's just overwhelmed and excited. And then he eventually gets to get on the train to go to school, which has the iconic platform 9 3/4, which I'm sure has caused many, many people to get concussions from just running straight into a wall to try and emulate that.
Which there's a lot that you could say about stop mimicking things you see on TV and or read in books, people.
I was just gonna say, like, it's a good thing that, like, Huckleberry Finn was set when it was, because otherwise Tom Sawyer would be one of those kids getting concussions from running into the wall to try and go to platform 9 3/4.
I mean, Tom Sawyer does a lot of stupid things because he saw it in a book.
Yep. We'll talk about that later.
Yep. Also, this guy looks way too high-tech to be a king in a fantasy kingdom. Just
Why does
saying.
he have, like, he has, like, science elephant hat.
I don't know.
It looks like elephant ears.
It does. I know it's supposed to be like a headdress type thing. But yeah, it looks like...
It's to preserve his kingdom's memory.
I think it's supposed to be like dragon wings?
I don't know, I'm just gonna say, like, it's preserve his kingdom's memory, because elephants never forget. That, or it's like a butterfly.
Anyway, platform 9 3/4.
Right. He gets on the train, and he, honestly, meets his very first friend, Ron Weasley. And he also meets Hermione Granger just in passing, who he initially decides he dislikes, because she's kind of, she's kind of a nerd and a bit of a show-off at the time. He also runs into Malfoy again, who he actually had previously met in Diagon Alley when he was getting his school supplies, and, well, takes a disliking to. We can talk a lot more about character dynamics later on. This is just a standard plot recap. But anyway, train gets to school, sorting ceremony occurs, as mentioned. Characters will be sorted based on their personalities into one of 4 houses. Gryffindor for the brave, Hufflepuff for the loyal, Ravenclaw for the clever, and Slytherin for the ambitious. Which is a vast oversimplification, but again, it's a kid's book. It's going to be. And there's a lot to say about how the houses actually function as a story element, but we can do that later. But yeah, then classes start, it's the school year, and you kind of just, you as the reader are getting the same introduction that Harry, who is utterly a fish out of water, is getting to the world. So you're introduced to the classes of transfiguration, of flight, potions, charms, etc., and the very unique personalities of all of the teachers involved with that. Particularly since I think this is probably more unusual for American readers like us, that, like, yes, this teacher is in charge of this house and therefore will kind of oversee a lot of things for that, because, like, I've never been to a boarding school. I've never been to a school that had, like, houses like that. But this is also where you get to see, like, some overt favoritism through, like, Professor Snape obviously favoring his Slytherins very much openly, so more so than the other heads of houses do. Like Professor McGonagall, who we saw in the first chapter, is the head of Gryffindor, where Harry is sorted into, and is very, very strict by the book and does not brook that sort of thing. Mostly. There is one exception, which we'll get to.
Go ahead.
I thought you were going to add in, but yeah. So, during one of the levitation classes, Harry ends up proving to be a natural on a broomstick, helping out one of his classmates from a bullying attempt by Malfoy. And Professor McGonagall sees it and decides, you know what, I know there's a rule against first years getting broomsticks and getting to play Quidditch, which is our wizard sport, which there's only one, because, you know, I don't know, wizards couldn't come up with more than one sport. I'm going to make an exception and get this kid a broomstick, a state-of-the-art broomstick, so he can play sports, even though that's against the rules for most everyone else. So I think it's the main instance of favoritism we get from McGonagall, and it's for sports, which I have thoughts on as a teacher, but, you know.
I mean,
But yeah, for the most part, it's just settling into a routine, getting to see the classes, and finding a niche, and learning how the world works, and just feeling like he belongs for once in his life. And, well, yeah. Teleports go. Woo!
yep.
So, they end up wandering around the school, Harry and Ron do. Hermione ends up with them, trying to stop them from causing trouble, because there is the house competition where everybody earns points for doing good things and loses points for getting in trouble. And she thinks, wait, you guys are going to lose us the house cup if you guys get caught out of bounds at night. I'm coming with you to get you to come back, which is when they discover a trapdoor guarded by a 3-headed dog. They don't know what's in it. They're mostly glad to escape with their lives. Yeah, well, at the time they don't, because, well, they hadn't figured that out yet. But they also discovered that Professor Snape has recently injured his leg, and start thinking, maybe Snape wants whatever is being guarded in there. Maybe that's why he doesn't like us. So, Quidditch season starts, and the kids notice that, Harry notices that his broom starts going haywire during the match because someone's cursing it. And Hermione sees Snape casting something and assumes it's him cursing the broom. So they instantly distrust Snape, and it's not like Snape has been very kind to them to kind of dissuade that. First impressions are kind of a huge thing with that, but obviously we can talk about characterization later. They also later discover a newspaper article saying that the Philosopher's Stone, or Sorcerer's Stone if you're a Yankee like us, has been stolen from the Wizarding Bank of Gringotts. And they assume maybe that's what's being hidden in the basement of a middle school. Because, that's a place where you want to hide stuff. It's in a building full of kids who are just learning magic and are absolutely prone to testing boundaries. This is highly secure.
Yeah, though to be fair, Hagrid did say that other than the bank, Hogwarts might be the best place to hide something.
Which I really, again, what's the most high security place in England to hide something? A place full of impulsive teenagers who are learning to cast powerful magic. Nothing can go wrong here.
Uh-oh. Yay.
Yeah, so anyway, the object is not in Gringotts because it has been moved. They think it's in the trapdoor, and they decide, wait, what if whoever wants to steal it is going to get there first? So we should go in. This is after, obviously, Harry and Ron are on better terms with Hermione. I kind of skipped over the troll attack because there's a lot that happens, and I'm kind of going a little bit out of order. It's fine. So there are a bunch of custom obstacles, each designed by a different professor to guard the thing. So there is a room full of flying keys, which Harry takes care of because he's a really good broomstick person and can navigate that. There's a strangling vine that Hermione defeats because she actually remembered the spell to do that. There's a giant chessboard that Ron manages to save the day with on that because he actually knows how to play chess. There's a logic puzzle with a bunch of potions, some of which are poison, which Hermione tells Harry how to solve to let him go through. And then Harry manages to get through to the end and confront the thief, who is indeed there, and is indeed one of the teachers. So, couple points there. It is not Snape, as he assumed. It is the Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher, Professor Quirrell, who is working with Voldemort, the wizard who killed Harry's parents, and is trying to make a return to power after being, as Miracle Max would say, mostly dead. So after his curse rebounded off of Harry. So, Harry manages to get the stone first out of the enchanted mirror of Erised, which we should absolutely talk about more later, and passes out and wakes up in the infirmary where Dumbledore kind of fills him in on what happened of, yeah, Professor Quirrell's going away now. He's not going to be a problem anymore. Yeah, we've destroyed the Philosopher's Stone, so it can't be used to for Voldemort's purposes, which Harry and Hermione actually did learn what they wanted earlier on a detention field trip to the Forbidden Forest full of monsters trying to kill you, where they ran into a centaur named Firenze, who told them that's what Voldemort wanted it for. And yeah, Gryffindor wins the House Cup because Dumbledore gives them all awards for navigating through the obstacles the teachers set, and an extra 10 points for Neville for standing up for himself. So, Gryffindor wins. Slytherin looks really upset because they were going to win before Voldemort did that. Dumbledore did that. Oh, good lord, that's not a good mix-up of names.
Eh.
And yeah, Harry is sent back to the Dursleys for the summer and reminded, remember, you can't use magic. He doesn't tell the Dursleys that.
I mean, why would he?
I don't know. But yeah, so that's a basic rundown of the first book, and admittedly, it has been a bit since I've actually reread the series. This is mostly from memory because, like I said, these were a huge part of my childhood, and I read them several times over the years, and a lot of it has stuck with me forever. I feel like I should be concerned about, like, bearded wizard man hovering over the party as they sleep.
Yeah, it's just this guy. He's not really important to the plot long term. He had the key all along.
But yeah, that's a basic rundown of the plot of Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, or Sorcerer's Stone, depending on your version. They're functionally the same, except they control F philosophers for sorcerers.
Yep.
And that means we are in a pretty good place to, next time, start talking about some of the more in-depth reading that can be done on these series.
Right, and we will continue with that next time. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you all then.